She thought it was just one last cup, then the billionaire exposed a life-changing secret for two. Ellie poured the last of the coffee into the chipped mug, her hands steadying themselves against the diner's dark countertop. Rain pattered rhythmically against the window, an echo of her swirling thoughts. Would today be the day she finally penned something worth reading? A rough draft of a grand story about love and adventure, escaping this suffocating town? Just then, the bell jingled. A tall figure stepped in, soaked and breathtakingly polished. Blake. There was something magnetic about him, a stark contrast to the flannel shirts and faded jeans she was used to. She blushed, shaking off the feeling before her mind spiraled. What was she thinking? He was just another customer, and she was just a waitress, not the heroine of some thrilling narrative. Yet as the two engaged in casual banter over refills, Ellie felt her anxieties seep into their conversations, each laugh a momentary distraction from her fears. Here she was, day in and day out, trapped behind a counter while life passed her by. But Blake didn't seem like an ordinary diner patron. Conversations twined through dreams and aspirations, lightly brushing the weight of societal expectations. He had everything: confidence, charm, qualities Ellie longed to have, yet continually felt crushed beneath the weight of responsibility to her family, the never-ending cycle of small-town life. Each evening, as she pushed through another shift, the notion of escape faded further away, like the steam rising from freshly brewed coffee. Before Blake exited one rainy afternoon, he turned to her, a teasing grin on his lips. "You've got to write your story, Ellie. You never know who might be listening." A gasp of indignation, mixed with gratitude, caught in her throat. If he only knew her struggles. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tension sparked like flint between them. Unspoken words hung over coffee cups, two worlds colliding with an electric charge. Their laughter turned to contemplations, as fears simmered under the surface. Possibilities flickered like a flame. But then came the moment that froze the air between them. "Ellie, you're going to want to sit down for this," Blake said suddenly, a shadow passing over his confident demeanor. They were linked, not just by flirtation, but by fate. Family secrets and artistic legacies wrangled their lives together in ways Ellie could barely comprehend. Her heart raced, woven in excitement and dread. Could this shift her entire world? Yet as anticipation bubbled within, whispers of jealousy cracked like ice beneath her. Rachel, with her disdainful glances and pointed remarks, loomed like a specter, poking at Ellie's insecurities with every slight. Did she deserve this chance to be someone more than a waitress? Doubts crept in, a tempest raging within, blurring the lines of possibility. In a fragile moment, Ellie found her voice. What if society defines us by our past rather than who we choose to become? The vulnerability of her words held the weight of her everyday struggles. Blake's gaze faltered. Uncertainty cloaked his charm. They stood facing each other, knowing the impending chaos could strip everything bare, their dreams, their budding connection, all shaken by the storm brewing in both their pasts. And just as they began to navigate the complex web of ambition and loyalty, the bell chimed again. A figure entered, shattering the fragile peace they had built, looming large against the doorway. Ellie felt her breath hitch. Who was it? Her past threatening to slip back into the present. The truth hung in the air, and with every passing second, the story of their paths threatened to unravel. The figure who entered the diner, cloaked in a tattered coat, loomed with an unsettling familiarity that sent a shiver down Ellie's spine. As her eyes adjusted to the dim lighting, she recognized him. Tommy, her estranged brother. His sharp features betrayed a lingering bitterness, shadowed by years of distance and disappointment. Guilt gnawed at her as memories of their childhood rushed back. Each recollection carried the weight of unspoken grievances. "Ellie," he said, his voice even but strained, "we need to talk." The smoothness of Blake's earlier charm felt muted against the harshness of reality. Ellie's heart thudded louder than the rain drumming on the roof, conflicting emotions swirling within her. She had almost found solace in Blake's presence, a moment of potential escape. But now, this moment of confrontation threatened to expose raw vulnerabilities she had worked hard to keep hidden. Tommy represented everything she fought against. Failed expectations, the weight of family loyalty, and a past she'd rather forget. Blake shifted beside her, sensing the tension without needing to verbalize it. "I'll wait outside," he said quietly, his tone devoid of judgment, but heavy with concern. As he stepped away, the warm connection they had shared felt vulnerable, hanging in limbo. Ellie's focus returned to Tommy, who eyed her with a mix of concern and accusation. "You think you can just forget us?" he pressed, frustration crackling in his voice. "Mom needs you back home. Dad's not doing well. Home." The word echoed hollowly, a reminder of her suppressed dreams and the burdens that chained her. The diner, with its faded charm and aroma of stale coffee, had become her refuge, yet it was also a prison stripped of aspirations. But now, faced with her brother, Ellie felt a restless flicker of determination rising. "I left for a reason, Tommy. Things can't go back to how they were," she asserted, trying to steady her trembling heart. The heat of their exchange drew the attention of nearby patrons, and her cheeks flushed with shame, but she refused to retreat. He stepped in closer, voice lowered but intense. "People change, Ellie. I have, and so has everyone else. You're out here living a fantasy. Look at you, a waitress. Don't you want more?" The sting of his words pierced through her bravado. Did she want more? The thought had never truly germinated, up until Blake had ignited that yearning for something beyond the mundane. "You don't understand. This dream is mine," Ellie replied, her voice trembling. "If I can write a story worth telling, maybe I could finally step into the life I want." Tommy's disbelief registered on his features. "You're stuck here, Ellie. Nothing will change if you don't allow it to." The shadows of their shared history loomed large, but their roles had shifted. Was he really offering her a way back, or was it a trap to ensnare her in familiar chains? "I can't go back to being what everyone else wants me to be," she shot back, bolstered by her newfound fervor. Each word echoed with growing clarity, revealing layers of grit she hadn't acknowledged. She was more than just a waitress or a daughter. She was a storyteller, capable of forging her path. The silence stretched between them, fraught with unspoken hopes and resentment. For a fleeting second, she glanced towards the window where Blake stood, rain cascading around him like a barrier separating their worlds. "Think about Mom, Ellie. Think about your family," Tommy implored, the tension in his voice revealing cracks in his own armor. In that moment, Ellie confronted the battleground within herself. Loyalty versus aspiration, love versus fear. It was time to confront her past, but also to reclaim her narrative. "I will," she replied, her voice steadier now, infused with conviction. "But I won't be forced to choose between who I am and who they expect me to be." As those words settled between them, a new resolve began to form. The stakes were higher now, both for her relationship with Tommy and with the path she was carving alongside Blake. No longer could she ignore the familial duties that pulled at her, nor could she forsake the dreams that gave her wings. Just as the air thickened with the weight of her proclamation, the door swung open again, bringing once more that unmistakable chill. A figure materialized, distinct and compelling, weaving through the tension with an aura of purpose. Ellie's breath caught. Another challenge had arrived. What awaited her now would force her into a decision that could redefine everything she had fought for. The figure stepped closer, brushing off the rain with an air of command. Ellie's heart skipped a beat as she recognized him. Derek, an influential figure in the literary world. As an editor at one of the top publishing houses, his presence stirred both anticipation and dread. She had heard whispers of his reputation, a man known for discovering raw talent and nurturing it into something profound. But tonight, he was just a reminder of the dream she wore like a cloak, a dream she feared might never fit. Tommy's scowl deepened as he caught a glimpse of Derek, the tension in the diner shifting palpably. "Who's this?" he asked, his voice heavy with skepticism. "He's—" Before she could finish, Derek stepped forward, an unsettling familiarity in his gaze. "Ellie, I've been looking for you," he said, his voice smooth and impassioned. "Your writing, the snippets I've seen, they have promise." Her breath caught. Was he talking about the bits she had scribbled late at night when the world was asleep? Was it possible someone so important had noticed? In that moment, all the stifled dreams roared to life, almost drowning out the doubts that had kept her anchored in the diner. "Maybe you're meant to be more than a waitress," he continued, locking onto her with an intensity that stirred a mix of emotions within her. "I want to help you publish your story." Tommy's frustration broke through. You think you can just waltz in here and offer her dreams? His anger radiated like a storm, but it was no match for the whirlwind in Ellie's mind. Why should I believe you? She challenged, her voice quaking with the weight of uncertainty. What do you get from this? Derek's expression softened, revealing a hint of earnestness. Nothing but the hope that you can unlock something incredible. You have a story, Ellie. It wants to be told. If you're willing to listen. Ellie looked from Derek to Tommy, battling the whirlwind of her thoughts. How could she even begin to trust Derek? What if he was merely playing into her family's narrative of failure? What did it mean to pursue her dreams when her brother's reality screamed for her attention? Do you want to chase this? Derek asked, cutting through the chaos. Or do you want to stay in this diner, letting what-ifs govern your future? The question clawed at her, piercing through her long-held fears and igniting a flicker of courage she hadn't tapped into before. Could she really break free, summon her strength, and fight for a life that rich with possibility? As she contemplated, she felt the weight of her brother's expectations and her own desires wrestling for dominance. I'm not ready to make a choice, Ellie finally admitted, her voice steadier than before. There's so much at stake. Derek nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. You don't have to choose tonight, but remember this. Sometimes the leap is what defines the journey. In that split second, she felt a kinship with her aspirations, a yearning that refused to be silenced. Her passion crackled like electricity, reminding her that her voice mattered. She could harness this opportunity, navigate the treacherous waters of her family obligations, and emerge on the other side, not just surviving, but thriving. Tommy's expression morphed from anger to caution, his protective instincts still guarded. You don't know what you're getting into, Ellie. I just want you to realize what's at stake. His words lingered ominously, but a wave of defiance coursed through her. She was no longer just a bystander in her own story. At that moment, a decision was forming within her, one that could either tether her to her past or propel her toward a future she hadn't thought possible. She met Derek's gaze, feeling the surge of possibility. What if this chance could finally reshape her narrative? As uncertainty clashed with excitement, Ellie sensed the need to shed the layers of doubt imposed by her family ties and societal norms. Picking up her pen, the catalyst for her evolution, she turned towards Tommy, ready to confront him with her truth once and for all. I'll think about it, she promised Derek, feeling a surge of resolve. But only if I can forge my own path. Just then, her thoughts grew heavier, a sudden realization hovering tantalizingly close. What if Tommy wasn't just concerned for her? What hidden secrets were wrapped up in their family's struggles that might shadow her choices? The air crackled around them as Ellie prepared for what could be a life-altering conversation. Each pulse of her heartbeat echoed a silent challenge. Was she ready for the truth, and what revelations awaited her once the barriers began to crumble? The diner felt both stifling and electric as Ellie prepared to confront Tommy. She lowered her gaze to the pen in her hand, her mind racing. This small object was more than ink on paper. It symbolized her dreams, the words she had meticulously crafted in the shadows of her life. Facing her brother felt like standing on the brink of a vast chasm, uncertain if she could leap or if she would fall back into the darkness of unmet potential. Ellie, don't do this, Tommy urged, the sternness in his voice wavering. You have no idea what you're stepping into. Do you really think you can just leave all of this behind? His eyes darted between Derek and Ellie, the tension in his body palpable. The shadows of their past loomed over them, thick with expectations. She looked up, catching Tommy's gaze directly. I've spent so long trying to make sense of my life through your lens. It's never been about me. I can't live in that shadow anymore, not when someone believes I might have something to say. Each word felt like a push against the walls that confined her. Tommy's shoulders slumped, his protective facade cracking. But what if you fail? What if this guy is just playing with you? Maybe he sees something I can't yet, Ellie shot back, her voice cracking. Maybe for once, I need to find out what I'm capable of. Derek stood quietly, observing the clash with an air of patience. He understood the familial undertones of this conversation, the complexities of loyalty and isolation binding Ellie to her brother. Yet he saw something transformative flickering in her spirit, a fire waiting to be kindled. You can be more than your past, Ellie, Derek said softly, directing her attention back to him. Let tonight be about your potential, not your fear. Step out from under the weight of obligation and let your voice break free. As Ellie absorbed Derek's words, an internal struggle roiled within her. The emotional stakes had never felt higher. Her commitments to her family were suffocating, yet she yearned for the laughter and validation only the written word could bring. This moment marked a crossroads. One path led to a familiar yet stifling reality, while the other beckoned toward the uncharted territory of self-discovery. "Tommy, I know you care," Ellie said, her mouth dry yet resolute. "But if you keep trying to protect me from everything, even from potential failure, I will never grow. This isn't just about seeing me succeed. It's about me learning what it means to be alive." Tommy flinched as if her words cut deeper than any knife. "It's not that simple. You can't just jump into a world you don't understand." "Maybe I can't," she countered, her breath quickening as adrenaline surged. "But staying here, hiding who I am, that's death. I need to at least try." For the first time, she sensed a crack in Tommy's unwavering stance. Their shared history loomed over them, as heavy as the rain beating against the diner's windows. But ultimately, her declaration of independence sparked something in him. A flicker of fear danced across his face. The realization that he was no longer the only storyteller of their lives. Derek shifted his position now, leaning closer. "Ellie, this could be your chance to rise above the noise. You don't need to decide everything tonight, but this conversation can plant the seeds of change." The weight of her brother's silence was both painful and liberating. Seeking a way to diffuse the tension, she turned the pen over in her fingers, feeling its cool surface press against her palm, a tangible reminder of her aspirations. "I want to take a leap, but I need to reshape what that leap looks like. Can we step outside this role, this narrative we've always played?" Tommy looked thoughtful, seconds ticking by between them like waves retreating from the shore. Somewhere deep inside, Ellie hoped he'd see the value in her endeavor and understand that her desire to explore her voice didn't diminish his importance in her life. As she readied herself for his response, a rush of collective breaths made the air thick with anticipation. The world outside the diner continued its chaotic rhythm, but inside, everything felt suspended, a critical juncture poised to redefine who they were. The moment of truth was at hand. Tommy's face softened, uncertainty battling with protectiveness in those familiar eyes. Ellie leaned closer, her heart racing, ready to unveil her conviction. "What if the truth about our choices can set us both free? What if this leap could be the beginning of healing?" Just as Tommy opened his mouth, something shifted in the diner, a third figure emerging from the shadows, a stranger with intentions cloaked in familiarity. The looming question that hung between them edged closer to revelation, rattling every foundation Ellie thought she understood. Was this new presence a warning, or a herald of the change she craved? Ellie's heart raced at the unexpected intrusion. The new figure cut through the tension like a knife, releasing a wave of uncertainty into the air. He was tall, impeccably dressed, with an enigmatic smile that seemed both inviting and unnerving. As he approached, Ellie could sense the energy shift, her instincts sensing an underlying purpose behind his presence. "Hey there, hope I'm not interrupting," the stranger said, his voice smooth and confident. He had an air of authority, like a man accustomed to being in charge. Ellie exchanged a glance with Tommy, who remained tense, ready to defend what felt like their fragile moment of clarity. Derek, however, welcomed the man with a nod. "Are you looking for someone?" The stranger smiled again, a glimmer in his eyes that suggested he knew something they didn't. "Actually, I'm looking for you, Ellie." The statement hung in the air, heavy with implications. Ellie's throat tightened. No one should know who she was, especially not a stranger. "What do you mean?" she managed, trying to hold on to the courage she had summoned only moments before. "I heard you're a writer," he said, leaning casually against the counter, undeterred by the obvious tension. "Word travels fast in creative circles, and you've caught my interest." Tommy shot Ellie a protective look, his brow furrowing as he stepped closer to her. "Who are you?" "Just a supporter of talent," the man replied coolly. "I'm Liam. I own a publishing house, and we're on the lookout for fresh voices that can tell compelling stories. I think you have something special." Ellie felt her breath hitch. From the moment she'd written her first short story, this was the dream she put on paper, the vision of her work being recognized. Yet, there was a pang of fear that twisted in her gut. "Why me?" she asked, struggling to ground herself. The validation felt like a double-edged sword. "Let's just say I have an eye for potential," Liam remarked. "But I can't help but notice how tense your brother is. Family expectations can create hurdles, can't they?" Tommy's expression darkened, casting a shadow over Ellie's burgeoning excitement. "I don't think you understand what you're stepping into. This isn't just some career choice for her. It's a part of who she is." "Exactly," Ellie interjected, her voice gaining strength as she realized this was her moment of defiance. "And if this is an opportunity to explore that, then I need to take it, Tommy. I can't remain your safe choice forever." Liam leaned in, watching the dynamic unfold with genuine curiosity. "I admire your willingness to stand your ground, Ellie. You know, jumping into a world like this can be daunting, but it's equally transformative. You could discover depths of talent you never knew you had." Ellie felt her pulse quicken as she internalized each word. Was this truly the path forward? That leap into the unknown that she so desperately sought could be possible. Behind her, Derek smiled, a silent encouragement pushing her toward this potential future. "Here's what I suggest," Liam continued. "Let's set a meeting to discuss your writing. Get a feel for your style, your voice. Trust me, you won't regret it." Tommy's expression hardened, disbelief clouding his eyes. "And what makes you think this is a good idea? You don't know what you're getting into." "Neither do you, Tommy," Ellie replied, her resolve solidifying. "Maybe it's time for you to trust me. You taught me never to settle. Isn't that what you wanted for me?" The conversation around them crackled with a newfound urgency, Ellie grappling with excitement and fear of the uncertain path that lay ahead. Tommy's choices, now intertwined with her own, felt like they were hanging by a thread. One decision away from unraveling long-held beliefs. "Let me think about it," she finally said, her voice steady. The moment felt electric, the weight of the choice heavy in her mind, yet liberating in equal measure. As Liam surveyed each of their expressions, Ellie knew this was the line in the sand. One step further would not only challenge her relationship with Tommy, but also redefine her understanding of herself. Just as Liam turned to leave, he paused, throwing one last glance in Ellie's direction. "Remember, Ellie, the real journey begins in uncertainty. It's where your story can truly unfold." The door swung shut behind him, the diner's atmosphere thick with possibilities. Facing Tommy, Ellie felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. She might finally begin untangling her identity from the past and embrace her writing future. But would the leap she contemplated bring freedom or further fracture their already tenuous relationship? As she drove home, the question echoed in her mind. Could she withstand the fallout from pursuing her dreams? The next morning, Ellie awoke with a jolt, the remnants of last night's conversation still swirling in her mind. Sleep had been evasive, her thoughts had raged like a storm. She rolled out of bed and headed straight to her desk, resisting the urge to redirect herself back into the comfortable numbness of routine. The sun streamed through the window, illuminating her half-finished manuscript, its familiar words now appearing both inspiring and suffocating. Grabbing a pen, she started scribbling furiously, ideas cascading out as she wrestled both doubt and exhilaration. Liam's invitation loomed large. It was not just about meeting a publisher, but standing at a crossroads, viscerally aware of the weight of her aspirations and the expectations shackled to her. Each paragraph she penned felt like both a battle and a revelation. She wrote about characters who faced adversity, making bold choices that propelled them into their destinies. The underlying fear of failure intertwined with yearning for freedom. This was the life she had imagined, the one she began constructing but could never quite bring to fruition. The phone rang, jolting her from her creative flow. It was Tommy. His tone was tense, a mix of concern and unyielding protectiveness. "Ellie, have you thought any more about last night?" "I have," she replied, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "And I think I need to meet with Liam. This is about me, not just what you want. Why can't you see that diving headfirst into something like this could end poorly?" Tommy shot back, frustration bleeding through the phone. "What do you know about the publishing world? This isn't some fairy tale." "It could be the start of my story, Tommy. Or maybe it's the story of my life that I've been neglecting," she countered, fierce determination swallowing her fear. "I need to find out what I'm capable of. You taught me to be brave." The silence that followed was thick with unspoken words, both of them grappling with their roles in one another's lives. Ellie's chest tightened as realization dawned. This was deeper than a professional opportunity. It threatened their bond, an inevitable shift that could leave cracks in old foundations. "I just don't want to see you hurt," Tommy finally admitted, softer now. "But I can't hold you back. Just be careful." With a reluctant agreement to agree to disagree, the call ended, leaving Ellie with a whirlwind of emotions. Could the journey she craved really be worth watching her brother struggle with the changes it might bring? Determined to reclaim her narrative, she felt the fragmented pieces of her story aligning, whispering that she was ready for whatever came next. She titled her latest draft, A Journey of Words, a meta-reflection of her inner battle for agency. The following day, she prepared for her meeting with Liam. The prospect of showing him her writing filled her with trepidation, yet she also felt a thrill racing through her veins. No longer would she let fear of judgment or family opinions dictate her path. As she pulled together her manuscripts, a potent cocktail of anxiety and hope brewed within her. When she arrived at the cafe, the ambiance buzzed with chatter and the rich smell of coffee, but her focus narrowed to just one element: herself. Entering, she spotted Liam sitting at a table, exuding the same effortless confidence that had unsettled her before. "Ellie," he greeted, a smile spreading across his immaculate features as he gestured her to sit. "Ready to dive into your world?" The question hung in the air. Would she be able to articulate the passions and fears that had been coiling within her? "I'm ready," she declared, her voice steadier than she felt. As Liam leaned in with genuine curiosity, Ellie began to unveil not just her stories but the very essence of who she was, cementing this moment as a pivotal step in her transformation. But as the conversation unfolded, a troubling thought flickered in the recesses of her mind. What if the truth she revealed couldn't be taken back? As she detailed her character's struggles, she felt a raw exposure that mirrored her own conflicts. Could sharing her story ultimately solidify her identity, or would it expose her vulnerabilities in ways she couldn't predict? The question loomed ominously as she continued speaking, every word crafting both her voice and the stakes of her journey, a path forged by desire and honesty, yet perilously poised on the brink of self-discovery and potential danger. Ellie could feel the energy shift in Liam as she spoke, his interest peaking with each revelation. Her heart raced, a mix of excitement and fear coursing through her veins. This was her chance to be seen, to dismantle the walls built from doubt and insecurity. Yet she couldn't shake the sensation that every word drawn from her lips was a risk, an act of courage that bore the weight of expectations, hers and those imposed by Tommy. "Your characters," Liam said, leaning closer. "They're complex, relatable. There's authenticity in what you've created. Tell me more about the protagonist's journey. What drives her?" Ellie's breath caught. A couple of weeks ago, she wouldn't have even ventured to entertain such a question about her work. Now, inspired by Liam's unwavering gaze, she began to dissect her protagonist's motivations, an exploration that felt simultaneously revealing and exhilarating. "She's driven by an insatiable curiosity," Ellie started, the words flowing with a newfound conviction. "But she's also paralyzed by fear. She has these dreams, much like I do, but it's the emotional chains holding her back that resonate most, like the fear of failure, or the worry that she might disappoint those she loves." "What if that chain could be shattered?" Liam probed, his interest sharper now. "What if the very act of writing, of sharing your work, could be the first step towards her liberation?" Ellie felt a tremor of recognition. Her narrative mirrored hers more than she'd ever realized. In that moment, she began to appreciate the parallels between herself and her characters, each fraught with the desire for affirmation, but shackled by their pasts. The notion of empowering her protagonist became a catalyst for her own transformation. "I think that's what I'm hoping for," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "To find the courage to step into the unknown without looking back." Liam nodded, his expression encouraging. "You're doing it, Ellie. You're diving headfirst into this journey. This meeting is a pivotal moment in understanding who you can become as a writer. The fears you voice here could very well fuel your character's breakthroughs." His words wrapped around her like a protective cloak, igniting a flame of determination within. She realized this wasn't simply about gaining a publisher's interest. It was about claiming her narrative, about rediscovering her voice not just on paper but in her life. But the undercurrent of her earlier conversation with Tommy simmered at the edges of her consciousness. How would this new path affect their relationship? Was it fair to embrace this metamorphosis when it might strain the bond that had always anchored her? "Have you considered how this journey might change your relationships?" Liam asked, as if echoing her inner turmoil. "Even your brother may need to adjust to the new you." Ellie's heart raced again, but for an entirely different reason. Was she truly prepared for that? In her quest for self-actualization, would she unintentionally alienate the ones she held dear? "I guess I'm scared about that," she admitted, vulnerability slipping into her tone as she wrestled with the truth. I don't want to lose Tommy, but... Ellie. His voice softened. Your growth won't be easy. But you have the right to pursue your passion, to write the life you want. If others can't understand, it reflects their own fears, not yours. You can't be responsible for their reactions. His words struck a chord within her, reverberating with an unsettling clarity. The journey toward authenticity, once daunting, now shimmered with possibility. Maybe this was the true act of bravery, not just in crafting stories, but in living them. I want to live my truth, Ellie whispered, the determination bubbling beneath the surface. She felt unshackled, ready to embrace whatever awaited her. Liam smiled, a gesture of genuine admiration. Then let's forge ahead. What do you need to do to ensure that your voice is no longer silenced? Ellie paused, her mind racing through the myriad of possibilities. The answer was stirring deeply within her. With newfound clarity, she knew the work wasn't just about submission to a publisher, but unveiling the complete tapestry of her journey, one filled with desire, conflict, and the undeniable truth of who she was meant to become. As they discussed plans and strategies, an inkling of fear crept back into her mind. What smooth path lay ahead once she embraced her truth? Could she truly navigate this altered relationship with Tommy, or would it become an unbearable distance between them? With the promise of internal discovery fueling her thoughts, Ellie realized she was standing on the precipice of change. The thought of the conversation with Tommy loomed heavier than before, a storm cloud of anticipation, leaving her anxious about what the next chapter would bring. Would she take the leap, or would old fears pull her back again? Her journey was only just beginning, one that demanded introspection and courage at every turn. Ellie's thoughts spiraled as she left the cafe, the shadows of doubt clinging tightly. Every step toward her car felt like a small rebellion against the insecurities that threatened to pull her back. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting an orange hue that ignited her surroundings, yet mirrored the fire kindling inside her. Her phone buzzed, snapping her from reverie. It was a message from Tommy, simply asking if she had time to talk. Those words curled around her heart, tightening as she contemplated the conversation ahead. What could she even say to begin unraveling the new path she was carving for herself? Ellie? A voice interrupted her thoughts. It was a neighbor, Mrs. Carter, who walked her dog daily. You look deep in thought. Ellie forced a smile. Just contemplating life and writing. It's good to see young people taking risks, Mrs. Carter said, a twinkle in her eyes. Don't let fear drive your decisions, dear. The wisdom struck Ellie directly, just as Liam's encouragement had. Each interaction was reinforcing her resolve, yet the burden of her impending conversation with Tommy loomed like a weight on her chest. She nodded appreciatively as she walked away, pondering how often she'd silenced her voice in favor of maintaining peace. Once home, she sat in her favorite armchair, the positioning of the sun now diffusing into a gentle twilight glow. Her laptop stared back at her, a possibility and a challenge interwoven. Opening it, she brought her fingers to the keyboard, but they hovered uncertainly as the blank document blinked mockingly. What if she faltered? What if her words didn't capture the depth she sought to express? As if sensing her hesitation, she remembered Liam's question. What if writing could liberate her? Ellie took a deep breath and began to type her thoughts, the act transforming her trepidation into determination. She penned about her protagonist, about fear and courage, refusing to shy away from expressing the intimacy of her struggles. But as her narrative flowed, she found herself grappling with an unexpected sensation. Anger. Not just anger about her situation, but at the expectations she felt from Tommy. How had she allowed them to stifle her voice? With every keystroke, Ellie reminisced on moments when she'd bitten her tongue, opportunities lost in silence, dreams shelved for the sake of comfort. The living room darkened as night fell, yet Ellie's resolve blossomed in the shadows. This writing wasn't merely anecdotal, it was cathartic. Each word was a step towards rediscovering the assertive part of herself she had stifled, one she now yearned for fiercely. When her phone buzzed again, Ellie's heart dropped. It was Tommy's name lighting up the screen. The timing felt ominous, the convergence of the emotions she'd been battling. She contemplated ignoring it, allowing herself more time to process. But she couldn't. This was her chance to confront her fears head-on. As she accepted the call, her breath quickened. "Hey, Tommy," she managed, striving to maintain a facade of calmness, even as her mind churned with possible outcomes. "Ellie, I've been thinking about what you mentioned earlier," he said, his voice a mix of concern and confusion. I just don't understand what's changed in you. You seem different." Ellie felt the weight of that word. A challenge, a plea, maybe even a threat. "I am changing, Tommy. I need to embrace this change for my own sake." There it was, the confrontation she hadn't meant to blurt out, but instinctively knew was necessary. The silence on the other end felt louder than a shout, exposing the fissures forming in their relationship. "I want to support you, I really do," he said finally, uncertainty threading through his tone. "But what if it means growing apart?" That question hung in the air like smoke, obscuring clarity. "Maybe it has to mean that," Ellie replied, her heart racing. "I can't keep living for someone else's expectations anymore." As the conversation unfolded, Ellie realized that the journey to authenticity would have its casualties. But wouldn't it be a deeper betrayal to herself not to pursue her truth? Tonight marked a turning point, a simmering reckoning about who she was and who she could become. And as the call concluded, leaving echoes of unresolved tension dancing in the air, Ellie felt lighter, a paradox of weightlessness amidst conflict. Would she find the strength to maintain her new direction as she faced what lay ahead with Tommy? The answer was just as elusive as the clarity she sought. Yet deep inside, Ellie felt that she had begun to challenge the very chains that had bound her. The path was daunting, yet a flicker of excitement sparked within her. An invitation to embrace the unknown and discover whether the life she envisioned was truly within reach. As Ellie closed her laptop, she realized the image of her protagonist was beginning to emerge vividly, almost guiding her steps into the uncharted territory of her own life. But the question remained. Could she balance her newfound aspirations while navigating the changing dynamics of her relationship with Tommy? The day after the conversation with Tommy hung heavily in the air, a palpable mix of excitement and apprehension swirling around Ellie. The morning sun spilled through her kitchen window, illuminating the coffee pot she mechanically prepared. The bitter aroma filled the space, a grounding force against the chaotic whirlwind of her thoughts. Sipping from her favorite mug, she opened her laptop again, determined to delve deeper into her narrative. The blank page, once a source of intimidation, now held the promise of clarity and self-discovery. It felt like a canvas waiting for the bold strokes of her emerging voice. There was a rawness to what she was feeling, an urgency to articulate it, to transform confusion into clarity. The protagonist she was crafting was more than a fictional entity. She was a reflection of Ellie's own burgeoning transformation. But the day was destined to be anything but ordinary. As she meticulously typed out her thoughts, a sudden buzz from her phone shattered her concentration. It was a new message notification from Liam, unexpectedly suggesting they meet at the park. The flurry of emotions danced within her, a hint of excitement and a trace of dread. What would Liam expect of her now? Deciding it was time to confront her uncertainties, Ellie quickly dressed, donning a comfortable outfit that reflected her newfound boldness. As she strolled to the park, she could feel the shifting dynamic of her world. Each footfall echoed with the weight of possibility, her aspirations colliding head-on with her past, every step a testament to her commitment to authenticity. Arriving, she spotted Liam sitting on a bench, his easy smile cutting through the tension that filled her chest. "Hey, Ellie," he called out, waving her over. She forced a smile, hoping it masked the turmoil beneath the surface. "Liam, thanks for suggesting this," she said as she sat beside him. "I've been thinking about a lot and I could use your perspective." His brows furrowed with interest. "I sensed something's different since we last spoke. What's on your mind?" This was it. The moment of truth. Ellie took a deep breath, feeling the familiar tremor of uncertainty wash over her. "I stood up to Tommy last night. I told him I need to change, that I can't keep living with his expectations hanging over me. It feels both liberating and terrifying." "Wow," Liam said, his voice a blend of admiration and concern. "That's a significant step. How do you feel about it?" "Mostly scared," she admitted, a reluctant vulnerability spilling out. "But also, hopeful? It's a messy mix of emotions. I've been silencing myself for far too long." Liam nodded, watching her intently. It felt as if he were studying the very essence of her transformation, recognizing the courage needed to break from the past. "You're not just standing up for yourself, Ellie. You're claiming your narrative. This is about more than just Tommy. It's about who you want to become." Ellie felt a spark of revelation. His words were an affirmation that her struggle wasn't merely conflict. It was part of a greater story unfolding. But then came the fallout of her admission. "But it might cost me my relationship with him. What if this change drives us apart permanently?" Change often isolates us before it liberates us. Sometimes people can't handle the new version of us, but that doesn't negate your needs. You deserve to carve out a space that's truly yours. Liam replied thoughtfully, his gaze unwavering. As the conversation deepened, Ellie felt layers of doubt peel away. In that moment, she confronted not just the fear of losing Tommy, but the fear of losing herself in the process. Each word she exchanged with Liam seemed to embolden her, laying the groundwork for the person she was gradually uncovering. But just as clarity began to prevail, she heard a familiar voice call from behind. It was Tommy, striding toward her with purpose. The expression on his face, a mix of resolve and uncertainty, sent a sharp jolt through her. Seeing him there, she felt the merging of her past and present in an unsettling convergence. What would this encounter mean for her? Would she have to defend her newfound conviction, or would it spiral into old patterns that left her stifled again? The weight of choice settled heavily on her shoulders as the distance between them closed. Would she embrace the change, or allow the past to pull her back? As Tommy approached, Ellie realized the real confrontation was not just with him, but within herself. The moment had arrived. The outcome was yet to be determined. The air tasted like possibility as Ellie squared her shoulders and braced for the confrontation. Tommy's approach was steady, but the tension between them crackled with unasked questions and unvoiced fears. He stopped a few paces away, eyes searching hers for answers, while Ellie worked through her own whirlwind of emotions. "We need to talk," Tommy stated, his voice holding an edge of determination. There was no other option. They had come to this crossroads. "Yeah, I think we do," Ellie replied, her tone as firm as her resolve. This was no longer about simply reacting to his expectations or the burdens of family. This was about asserting her own narrative. "I'm glad I found you here," he started. "I wanted to understand what you meant last night. It feels like you're slipping away from me." There was a vulnerability in his words, those expressions that tugged at Ellie's heart, yet only propelled her forward. "I'm not slipping away, Tommy. I'm stepping into the person I want to become," she said, each word infused with conviction. "I can't stand by and watch myself waste away, contorting my life to fit someone else's vision of success. I have dreams that I need to pursue." As she spoke, she felt a surge of empowerment. The juxtaposition of her fears against the backdrop of her ambitions painted a vivid tableau of her growth. She could sense the palpable shift. The weight was no longer suffocating, but rather liberating. "Do you really think you can make it as a writer?" His brow furrowed, concern lacing his words. "It's such a risky path, Ellie. What if it doesn't work out?" Each doubt he expressed echoed the insecurities she had wrestled with, yet in that moment, she felt the strength of her rediscovered identity. "But what if it does?" she countered, her pulse quickening with fervor. "What if I find my voice, become the storyteller I've always wanted to be? I have to try. It's my right to chase what fulfills me, regardless of the risks." Tommy's silence was deafening, yet in his eyes, Ellie saw a flicker of realization. Perhaps this wasn't just a declaration of independence. It was an invitation for him to explore what their relationship could become, untethered from the expectations they had both known. "What if you fail, Ellie?" he repeated, determination now blending with concern. "What if you get hurt?" In that critical moment, Ellie stepped closer to him, her heart racing, yet anchored in her newfound strength. "What if I don't? What if this journey becomes everything I've ever hoped for? Living in fear of failure has kept me from living at all. I don't want that for myself anymore." Tommy's face softened as he took a breath, weighed down by conflicting emotions. Seizing the moment, Ellie continued, "I love you. Our bond is important to me. But we both have to grow, to explore who we are outside of our roles in each other's lives. I want us to remain close, but I can't do it at the expense of losing myself." Her declaration hung in the air, an unyielding truth that challenged both their realities. Tommy's shoulders slumped slightly, the weight of understanding flickering across his features as he absorbed her message. "You're right," he said quietly, the fight draining from him. "I've been so focused on wanting to protect you that I forgot what you needed most was the freedom to chase your dreams. I see that now, and I want that for you." A wave of relief washed over Ellie, blending with the bittersweet taste of letting go. "I want you to be proud of me, Tommy, and I hope that as I grow into who I am meant to be, you can also find your own path." The air around them shifted from uncertainty to possibility. A new chapter unfurled, one they would navigate not as burdens to each other, but but as individuals dedicated to their own journeys. Ellie felt a sense of accomplishment as Tommy nodded, the tension easing from his brow. "It won't be easy, but I'll support you. Just promise me that no matter where you go, you remember I'll always be here for you." "I promise." With those words, Ellie felt the last vestiges of worry dissipate. She had not only confronted her fears but had recognized that her strength could give his perspective room to breathe. With every step she took toward her future, Ellie felt a renewed sense of purpose. Her journey wouldn't be without challenges, but she was ready now. As they parted ways, a sense of freedom enveloped Ellie. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had conquered the hurdles in her life. Now, it was only about thrumming with the rhythm of the life waiting to be written. Unfinished stories danced tantalizingly close, eager to be told. After the discussion, Ellie made her way home, the sun setting in vibrant hues of orange and pink. She'd faced her brother and reclaimed her narrative, a significant milestone in her transformation. Seated at her desk, she opened her laptop, her fingers poised to weave the fabric of her evolving journey. Each keystroke became a celebration of her growth and an affirmation of aspirations once left dormant. Now was the time to embrace her newfound path. As Ellie typed, she captured the essence of determination, vulnerability, and promise. This was her moment to rise, to demonstrate that she had indeed conquered the shadows of her past. Her words flowed like a river, intertwined with hope. Ellie had not only seized the narrative of her life, but held the reins to steer it into the uncharted territories of her dreams. And within that process, she unearthed the solid confidence that her story was now an invitation to her audience to witness the rise of a storyteller. As she finished the draft, she glanced at her ever-growing collection of pages, illuminated by the desk lamp's warm glow. Each word was not just a record of struggle, but a tapestry woven with resilience and bravery. She set her gaze upon the horizon outside. This was not merely about finding success in writing. It was about living authentically in a world where she belonged. With a satisfied smile, Ellie saved her work, her heart swelling with pride. She had achieved a milestone, not just in drafting a narrative, but in embracing her truest self. This was the moment she'd fought for that felt abundant and attainable, glistening in the twilight of realization. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss out on the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support incredible journeys of personal overcoming. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.